Selling on Amazon is difficult. It's everything but passive income. I share videos like this one to help Amazon sellers on their journey. My name is Stephen Pope, and I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. When Amazon turns your world upside down, tune into My Amazon Guy to land safely and grow your Amazon business. Welcome to the My Amazon Guy podcast. I now am joined by Ian. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. It's really great to be here, and I'm happy to talk to the My Amazon family audience.
Yeah, all right. So everything we do each week is to help sellers grow their sales in and out. So first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive into the meat and potatoes today.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So again, my name is Ian Kaneshiro. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, but living in Tel Aviv now. And I work for SellerSnap. And SellerSnap is an AI Amazon repricer. And so we work with third-party Amazon sellers to reprice those goods, to get them in the buy box while focusing on profit and profit margin optimization.
And you also are somewhat of an e-commerce pro. Tell me a little bit about that and why you have so much experience.
Well, e-commerce pro is a term that can be thrown around a lot, and
that's what your assistant said. I'm just going off what she said. So
at the end of the day, I have been working in e-commerce for a big portion of my career. I actually started working in a warehouse when I was probably 14 or 15 years old, kind of a family-run business.
Sure.
That was still doing catalog sales at this time, if you can believe that. And
hey, that catalog sales are coming back. I think we're going to see a surge on them, to be honest.
Don't tell that to the people that hate paper and don't want to cut down the trees. I sure hope not. But yeah, and so I started working at this warehouse, doing picking and packing orders, and this was really in the I would say the earlier stages of e-commerce. And they had a website, and also this company was on Amazon at that early time, which I didn't make that connection back then, pulling things from shelves, putting them in boxes. But, really when I look back, I can see that logistically, I was really part of this machine that was getting products to the people. And so I worked for a couple of companies, and this was called Sports Section. Another one was called Foreplay, which was actually a lingerie company based out of Southern California. And
good play on words there.
Yeah, definitely. And I found my way into kind of the software space. And so now I work with an Amazon repricer, helping third-party sellers, much like the companies I used to work for, again, capture the buy box and work through the Amazon stores and their Amazon journeys as well.
So most of our listeners and clientele are private labelers. They don't very often have to vie for the buy box, but there may be some updates in the tech or something you might tell me that I'm not expecting you to say. Should somebody who is a private labeler who doesn't typically see multiple contenders for the buy box be looking at repricing tools these days?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, repricing historically has been only for for wholesalers, retail arbitrageurs, online arbitrageurs. But what we're experiencing more and more is that sellers and private label sellers specifically are coming to me asking, how can I gain an edge on my competition? Because the question that I ask a lot of times is, do you have competition for the buy box, or do you have competition? And the answer is no, I don't have competition for the buy box, but I do have competition, right? If you're selling, I don't know, a pack of pens, right? And it's a 5-pack of blue pens. You're not the only 5-pack of blue pens on the market. And so your consumers are going to come on and have to make a choice between your brand and another brand, and then, the Bics of the world. And so it's important that you have a pricing strategy that kind of puts yourself in a competitive position. You don't want to be so much higher that you're not getting any sales, and you don't want to be so far lower that you're devaluing
giving away margin.
Exactly. And so we do have a couple of solutions in terms of repricing for private label sellers that can help kind of navigate this system. And just a bit of background, we are an AI repricer, but that is very much for the kind of the wholesale side, the buy box side, you could say. And then, but for private label, it's a bit more, you have a bit more rules to set up in order to do that. And I don't know where we're going with this, but I'd be happy to explain a little bit further about how that works.
Yeah, we should go into it. So I think people would be interested to know, like, does it make sense to have a repricer price your item against the Bix pens of the world, the other 5 pack of blue pens? Like, how would that structurally work?
So there's really 2 questions in there. Number 1 is, does it make sense? And number 2 is, how does it work? And so the does it make sense is more of a business question, because just like anything else out there, there are costs to something like a repricer, and additional technology in your stack. And so depending on the volume that you're doing, without a repricer at the moment, depending on what your margins are, that is a business decision that every seller has to make for themselves, to understand, all right, does this make business sense to me in order to, pay more for a new technology? Like, am I getting extra value? Because we're,
Sure.
Whether we're talking about consumers who are actually buying the pen, or as businesses, the money that we spend, we're always talking about value. So that's number 1. But number 2, on a technical level, the most popular version of a repricing model that our sellers use is called follow related ASIN, or follow multiple related ASINs. And the way that it works is pretty straightforward. What you can do is you'll come in and you'll say, all right, I have my Bic pen, or not my Bic pen, I have my private label pen, and I want to follow the 5 pack of Bic, and I want to, I don't know, match their price. I want to always be $1 below them. I have a more premium product. I always want to be $1 above them. And so that way, what you can do is you can attach yourself to that item. We also take that one step further in doing multiple related ASINs. So you can put different variations of the different products. So maybe you want to do a 5 pack in black, a 5 pack in blue, and a different brand, let's say. And then you can say, let's follow the lowest item, like the lowest priced item, for example. And then, or I want to follow the item with the best sales rank. So again, it's all about kind of setting up rules and finding which one works best based on kind of where you sit in that ecosystem, in this case of pens. But it's a really cool system in order to kind of better position yourself in the market that's really, really dynamic at the end of the day.
So I think pens are really boring. Maybe we should have gone with the foreplay. I'm kidding. All right. So, I think you're making an articulation for why private laborers should be running an automated, repricing structure. One of the other things that I've found increasingly frustrated. So like I use the Seller Central tool, repricer tool frequently, right? However, it's breaking down a lot of late, and there's some min and max pricing issues that show up. And so typically, for those that are retailers carrying lots of items in their buy box, they'll set a rule and be like, hey, undercut by 1 penny and be in the buy box. All that makes sense. I think most people listening to this understand the purpose of that, to win the buy box when there's multiple people. In addition to that, we see that sometimes it makes sense to run a repricer as it compares to the rest of the internet off of Amazon as well. So that kind of adds a new layer or a new scenario in here. And the reason that would matter is because sometimes while they may have an item on Amazon, they may not have the exclusive on, say, Walmart or somewhere else where Amazon is comparing the pricing. And then sometimes they'll take away the buy box if you have a higher price on Amazon. So with those 2 scenarios in mind, we would set up the Seller Central repricing tool. And then what happens, and here's where the bug and here's where the question comes in. The min and max pricing is set through the tool, and it's completely breaking down. So I'm not sure if you've seen that yourself, or how you handle min and max pricing so that Amazon doesn't randomly take the item offline, but I would love any wisdom you have on this scenario.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to jump into that. It's an interesting question because there are, I talk to all kinds of Amazon sellers all day, every day. And I think that it kind of boils down to language. So I just have a quick follow-up question is, are you referring to when the buy box gets suppressed and you kind of get that message that says available from all of these sellers, or view all offers, I should say? Or are you talking about a different scenario?
We should talk about that too. But before we talk about that, I'll layer this one a little bit deeper. So whenever you have a price band, right? So taking this bottle opener in my hand here. So let's say the price band is 20 to 10. That means if the item, and let's say I'm selling a 3-pack, right? So let's say if the item goes down to $9.99, Amazon will strand the listing, take it offline, and put in a price alert. And what we're seeing is we're setting up these price bands, 10 to 20, and then Amazon mucks it up somehow and then takes the item below the $10 price point and then strands it. And then when we go to hit relist on the item, it doesn't fix it. It's one of the most aggravating bugs that we're facing right now.
Yeah, man. If I had a magic wand on Amazon, this would be the first thing I fix, because it's a huge problem for all sellers on Amazon, and there's not a whole lot of documentation. There's not a whole lot of reasoning behind it, except for my feeling is that it just doesn't. It's supposed to serve a certain task or purpose, and it doesn't always reach that. And so the first question is, why does it exist? And so the reason why this min and max price exists on Amazon, it goes way back to, I think it's already 10 years now, where there's a repricer that priced a bunch of items to a penny. And all of these sellers were selling all these items at a penny before Amazon caught the issue and could actually cancel these orders. And so a lot of these sellers, and this happened in the UK, incurred losses. And so what Amazon did, what Seller Central did, was they created this range that says, if your price for whatever reason gets priced outside of this min and max range that you have set, we are going to deactivate the listing in order to make sure that on the low side, you're not incurring losses, and on the high side, that our customers are getting the best possible experience by not having pricing that is way too high. And so it goes back to what you were saying, is that anytime we go beyond those ranges, we are out. We ended up get stranded, we get deactivated, and we're not in a position to sell because we don't have an active listing. Does that sound like what you're?
That's exactly it. So have you guys had experience solving these problems, or do you have any advice for somebody going through these problems?
Yeah, sure. So we have a couple of solutions for them. And I'll talk about the first one, which has to do with the min and max price. And then the second one that has to do with price gouging, which is something that we've seen more and more since the beginning of the pandemic. And so for the first part, what we've done is we've created a solution where sellers can manually update that min and max price through Seller Central directly to Amazon. And so what that might look like is, you have your min and max price set within Seller Snap, within your repricer. And then you have a user initiated button that says, all right, set my min and max price in Amazon to 1% below my min and 1% above my max. As easy as that. And so as long as you are repricing within that range, assuming that you're not getting flagged for price gouging, which is a different topic, you'll be able to continually reprice without running into any hiccups.
So when Amazon breaks this system down, we have gone to Amazon and ticketed and said, hey, we hit the manual button, we fixed the alert, and the alert still exists there. It's been a very, very frustrating process. So thanks for shedding a little bit of light on like what you guys are seeing and whatnot. All right, so let's shift the conversation a little bit to AI repricing. So what is algorithmic repricing in general, and like how does that differ from, say, like a rule-based repricing tool?
That's a really great question. So when it comes down to a rule-based repricing tool, you know, what the user does is that they'll come into their platform and they'll set up a rule that says, for example, undercut my lowest competitor by a penny. And why is that decision made? Because we want to be in the buy box. But what happens is when two competitors with that same strategy meet each other. So competitor A undercuts competitor B, and they both go head to head until they drive that price down, bottoming out the price. And so,
Which is what Amazon loves. That's what customers love, man. So why aren't we selling cheap goods? Like, why wouldn't we want to do that?
I mean, it's a catch-22, right? We want to sell at the best. We want to sell at a price where we can maintain velocity and keep items moving. But as the e-commerce system grows, we see a lot of times, because of competition, profit margins start to dwindle. And it happens a lot because of competition. And so even though it might be great for Amazon and the consumer, for our selling partners, it's not ideal because those profit margins just fall off. And so that's about a rule-based repricer. And so now we're talking about SellerSnap and AI Repricer. And what do we do and how do we do it? And so basically what we aim to do is we aim to continue to get the buy box, because that's the important part about getting sales, but we also aim to avoid price wars. And so the way we do that is by scanning the competitive environment on the listing level and learning from what's going on. And so we can really understand the decisions that our competitors are making based on the decisions that we make. And so what that might look like is us understanding that, that competitor is attached to our price, right? Because they're following the lowest competitor minus a penny. And so that means if they're attached to our price at $20 and they're at $19.99, then they'll be attached to our price at, let's say, $30 at $29.99. And so in very simple terms, what we'll do is we'll capture the buy box, we'll raise to that max price of $30, let our competitor come up with us, and then we'll re-engage with them to capture the buy box and to capture those sales.
Sure.
And then when the repricer gets too low, the AI will say, this is too much. Let's kind of reset and bring that competitor back up with us and start that cycle again. Again, we're still getting about the same buy box share as we were in the previous scenario, but we're doing it at a higher price point.
So all of that makes sense, and that, of course, maximizes your profits by also still being agile and nimble. All right, so that's been some helpful information on repricing. Good information, especially if those people who are listening have never used it before. All right, so let's pivot away from repricing and just talk general best practices. This is kind of the segment I like to do when we try and help people just grow their sales. So any advice that you could give, and this is very open-ended question, mind you, but if I wanted to grow my sales today, give me something I could do in an hour that you think would be beneficial.
Something that we could do in an hour in order to grow sales.
And if an hour is too narrow, go broader. And here's some general tips or advice. Basically, we want somebody to leave the podcast today saying, "Yeah, I can go grow my sales by following Ian's advice today."
Sure. Well, coming from, I'm gonna stay kind of in the realm of repricing for the first part of this, and the first part is to check my mins and check those mins and maxes, and just like we were talking about with the Amazon price guard, make sure that your items are active. I don't know how many sellers that I talk to that say, I've had this many items deactivated for weeks on end. And I understand that there's some scenarios that, you try to reactivate and they don't get reactivated. And like at the end of the day, that really sucks. And but the only thing you can do is kind of work with Amazon, open up tickets but that all takes time. But there are going to be ones that you can find that you can reactivate right away. And because remember, you can't make money when your items are deactivated. And so that's number one. Number two, if you're using a repricer, go and make sure that your min and max prices are competitive. You want to make sure that you don't have a competitor, especially if you're competing for the buy box, sitting right below that min. If you do, you might want to find a way to, maybe take a little bit less margin in order to sell a little bit more. And then the last thing I would say is to make sure that you are getting the most out of your tech stack. I think that and I don't think this is only for Amazon sellers, but I think that this goes for, everybody in general. We are so good at finding new services to use, whether it's a repricer. I know your team does PPC, and I'm sure that you've experienced this, that there are a lot of times where that there's really great features or really great solutions that you have that, your partners, your customers are not getting the full advantage of. And I think what I see a lot of is, clients saying, I didn't know you had this feature. I wish I knew about it 6 months ago. And, we had it 6 months ago, and you could have been making money that entire 6 months if you had, kind of did an audit of your internal processes / asking questions to your service providers to say, where can I get more out of my current workflow, out of my current processes?
So the tech stack comment's interesting too, because there's a lot of things, people just want to run on autopilot. They want their passive income on Amazon, but in all honesty, it does take a lot of work to go back and check things out and see where things are going. All right. So Ian, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you or SellerSnap, where should they go? How can they get in touch with you?
Quickest way is to go to sellersnap.io. And if you want to get in touch with me directly, you can always reach me at my email at ian@sellersnap.io, or you can look me up on LinkedIn, Ian Kaneshiro. If you want to take a crack at spelling that last name, it might be.
Is it Japanese?
It is Japanese. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I think it's easier than people might think. Kane and then Shiro. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, Ian, thanks for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate your insights into the repricing world. For those that haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and share this with somebody else who might find value in improving their sales on Amazon. Thanks so much. This was the My Amazon Guy podcast with Stephen Pope. Each episode helps you grow your sales on Amazon through ideas on traffic and conversion rate improvements. Hit that subscribe button right now to tune in each week. And if you need more help, go to myamazonguy.com.